Hey guys, DSA here, and today will be a pretty quick video, a mini essay if you will, and we'll be talking about esports, professional gaming. Alright, let's get right down to it. Is esports sports? Is professional gaming comparable to professional sports? Can we compare League of Legends to football, to basketball? Can we compare Dota to hockey, to soccer? Um, Some people will say no, some people will say yes. And what I'm trying to ultimately argue is that technically, esports is not a sport, but we aren't worried about technicalities here. We worry about what really matters, the significance of things. And I think that I could strongly argue that although esports and professional gaming, it's not actual sports, it shares many similarities that can legitimize the fact that it calls itself a sport. Um, so let's look at a definition of traditional sports. Dictionary.com says that an athletic activity requiring skill or physical prowess and often of a competitive nature, such as racing, baseball, tennis, golf, bowling, wrestling, boxing, hunting, fishing, etc. And Merriam-Webster Online says sport is a contest or game in which people do certain physical activities according to a set of rules and compete against each other. Okay, so the traditional definition is definitely fixated around the fact that there's athleticism involved and that it's a physical thing. Um, so on that definition alone, yes, esports and gaming, video gaming, it's not a sport. But let's try to break down what sports really is. Yes, it's all predicated on the fact that these sports players, these professional athletes, are just physically honed. Their physical capabilities like significantly outweigh someone like me, like an average person. It's to the point that like because it's their job to be physically fit and amazing. Um, I can't compare myself to someone like Messi or someone as Peyton Manning or someone like Jonathan Taves and call myself a same human being because honestly they're so far ahead in terms of their physical orientation. They're so fit. Their muscles are just different than mine almost because what do I do? I just walk, maybe run once in a while, but their lives are dependent on the fact that their physical capabilities um, uh, are through the roof. So if we take that into account, yes, video gaming ultimately, no matter how much your fingers move, no matter how fast you're clicking, ultimately you're sitting down and just looking at a screen. But let's try to really dig into sports. There's competitive spirit, sportsmanship, there's rivalry, there's techniques that yes, it's dependent on how athletic you are, but also it's more of a technical skill. Um, and we also have strategy, you know, the huddles and like looking at the coach while he frantically makes drawings on the whiteboard isn't for show. There's actual strategy involved, and there's fans. It's a whole industry, right? And if we take those into account, then professional gaming, I mean, it imitates a lot of that. And it's not that it even imitates or mimics, because if you look at a sport, just don't think about the fact that they're skating, running, or sprinting, or tackling, or whatever. But just look at how the game is set up. Yeah, it's a game. There's teams, there's a field, there's objectives, there's rules, there's point scoring, there's penalties, and in essence, all sports activities are games. And so they're physical games. And in comparison, video games are non-physical games. They're electronic games. So it may be that it's not that traditional sports is sports and video gaming is just gaming, but that traditional sports is a physical game, while modern day video gaming is an electronic game, hence esports. And some people will immediately, just close the conversation right there and say that I'm ridiculous, but let's think about it. The spirit of the competitor, the competitive spirit, the cheer of the fans, the heart an athlete pours into training, it's pretty comparable to what a professional gamer has to go through. I mean, just because the medium of expressing your competitive spirit is different, it doesn't mean that video gaming is just a mindless way of killing time that little kids do while they're just mindlessly looking at a computer screen and just clicking madly away. If you actually care enough to delve enough into what actual video gaming is about in the modern day, for League of Legends, Dota, Counter-Strike, it gets to a level of difficulty that it's really um, unfair, unjust, inaccurate to just say it's a video game and just write it off. I mean, all those who just say League of Legends is just a video game, if they actually play it enough, and when I mean play enough, I mean at least a couple months, then they'll start to understand how far above and beyond the professional gaming realm is. And it's just as unreachable as traditional sports in terms of how, um, like the fact that professional, I don't know, football players, they're on a totally different level. As average, normal human beings, normal people, we can't reach either level. It's like video gaming isn't just uh, something. It's not something easy you can just pick up. I mean, at the professional level, it definitely becomes a sport on its own. And if people who are willing to objectively and logically take this argument into consideration, they'll realize that the only thing they can fall back on is the fact that esports is lacking a physical element. And if you do that, uh, you're defining sports purely based on its physical element, and you have to, but just logically, relinquish the fact that there's competitive spirit, there's strategy, there's tactics, there's fans, um, because if you acknowledge that, then you also have to acknowledge that video games, God forbid, they have it too. And I think the archaic view that, video games are just, it's like Tetris or just Pong going back and forth, like do, 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 do. It, video games have evolved to an extent that it can hold its ground against sports as a form of competition, I think. And of course, no one is saying that video games are sports. Just by like the term esports alone, electronic sports, it already has relinquished any claim of being physical. So logically, to argue that like the term esports is wrong because it's not a sport because there is no physical element, well, esports knows that. That's why it's saying esports, electronic sports. It's not saying that it's a sport. So I think it may reach a stage one day where, um, like right now, video gaming, despite how far it's gotten, is in its infancy compared to traditional sports. So, given enough time, it may be that traditional sports are labeled physical sports, and that video games, professional gaming, will be labeled electronic sports, esports, you know, without there being any misconception that esports is trying to be a sport. So, oh, okay. So, yeah, I mean, give it a thought. Don't be offended if you're a sports player thinking that some nerd in glasses in his mom's basement clicking away at a mouse can be called an athlete. No one's trying to argue that. It's just that um, the similarities between traditional sports and esports are, you know, very much there, and that at the highest level of competition, we shouldn't fret about the fact that one is physical and the other is not, because I don't think sports is about how athletic someone is. I mean, that's a necessity, that's a basic requirement, but um, I think ultimately it's in the heart right here. The competitive spirit, the love for the sport, the love for competition, the passion for playing in front of your fans. So while the physical element of traditional sports is not a superficial trait, it shouldn't be the only trait that serves to denounce esports as anything but just the video game. Yeah. So thank you for watching. Make sure you read the essay below, and yeah, thank you for watching.